Okay, welcome to week 7. So next week is just the midterm. That's next week. So when you look at the reading for this week, just keep in mind next week is coming. So this week is big. You're going to read chapter 8, the media. Why do we talk about the media when we're talking about American government? It's because the media is what keeps we the people informed. So we need them. And there's been some controversy about the media and the media's role. So you're digging in this week. In the 70s, it was a very tumultuous time in our government. Our president, at 1970, the year itself, had a nickname. The first part of that nickname was Tricky. His first name was Richard. I'll let you figure out the rest, but that was his nickname. He toyed with the economy, according to the famed economist Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell, and he manipulated the economy, trying to create a boom, a post-World War II boom, trying to manipulate that so that he could get reelected in 1972. He also was very paranoid. Nixon was very, very paranoid. And so in his efforts to get reelected, we have a lot of things going on, such as Watergate. But in the background of Watergate, we have a man named Daniel Ellsberg. Daniel Ellsberg was employed by a think tank. These are people who take massive amounts of information and then they put it together in ways we can understand it. They analyze it, they produce papers, articles, things like that. The Heritage Foundation is one such think tank. The Cato Institute, people like that. They analyze what's going on and then they let us know. And sometimes they're a little too smart for me, though. I have to have it dumbed down some. But Daniel Ellsberg, brilliant man. He's an analyst for the think tank RAND, and they are studying the United States involvement in Vietnam. The Vietnam War started in August of 1964. We did not formally declare war as the Constitution prescribes. The Congress did not formally declare war. Instead, they passed the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that allowed use of military force in Vietnam. So that's when we got involved, 1964. My uncle served in Vietnam. He was drafted. The actor Tom Selleck, if you're a Blue Bloods or a Magnum PI fan, the original Magnum, not the newer one, Tom Selleck was drafted during Vietnam. So this took American lives, American money. And so as Daniel Ellsberg reads this 7,000-page study of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam, it was dubbed the Pentagon Papers, 7,000 pages. He's one of the only people to have ever read the whole thing. He starts leaking it. He leaked it to the New York Times, and eventually he leaked it to several other newspapers. Why did he do that? It's because Daniel Ellsberg, in his brilliance, understood how our government is designed to work, and it is still designed to work this way. So he leaked it to these newspapers because he knew if the American electorate knew what was going on in Vietnam, what had gone on, what was going on, then they would vote to change their representatives, their senators, and their president and get us out of Vietnam. And it was very effective. Well, it ticked Nixon off. And so this fight goes all the way to the Supreme Court. We see this case, New York Times Company versus United States. You're going to read the opinion. The opinion is very short. It's 3 paragraphs, very short. Get a dictionary so you know what the words are. Anytime I read a Supreme Court opinion, I have to have a dictionary. My vocabulary is just not robust enough to hack that on my own. So have a dictionary, but that's what you're doing this week. You're reading chapter 8, the media. You're reading a little blurb about the Pentagon Papers, give you some background. You're reading the opinion of the New York Times Company versus the United States. You're learning why we need this, and you're learning about a little something called the Fairness Doctrine. That was something that came into play. So when television replaced radio in the late 1940s as the most popular means of entertainment and information, we wanted to have fairness because there was a fear that if a news station only represented one side of an issue, then the public could be manipulated. So it was mandated that news agencies represent both sides of prominent issues and that they not ignore prominent issues. The Reagan administration in the 80s repealed it. So you're going to analyze that. Was that right constitutionally or not? This is a big week, but just hold on, keep your seatbelt fastened because next week is a little bit lighter. Make sure you're doing the textbook reading as well as these other readings because the textbook readings are heavily represented in next week's midterm. All right, have a great week. And if you have missing or late assignments, get them in.